Hi, Derek. Long time no talk.
What's up, Doze? It's good to see you, my man.
Same here, same here. Thanks for joining me on 5 minute takes. And I will usually just go straight to it. I have one question for you. So, what are your must-have best practices for when you're creating a sales cadence?
Yeah, when creating a sales cadence, and I assume we're talking about outbound here, there's a couple things that I like to keep in mind. I always lead with delivering value. For any prospect in general, if you're not delivering value, then you're not selling, right? And so, one way I like to do that is by teaching them something new with almost all of the touch points that I have throughout that cadence. So, keeping it pretty educational, keeping it informative, and piquing their curiosity with each message they receive from me. Second rule of thumb is I like to make them feel good. This person doesn't know who I am. And so it's always best to lead with positivity, some level of humor at the end of the message. Maybe they have a smile on their face, but it was a net positive to their day. Third, I would say is actually lead with personalization. So you have this limited amount of space on a phone call, in a video, or on an email, where they read the first couple words, maybe in the email header. And for me, that should be personalized space so they know that that email is meant for them. So whatever I can find on them, whether they like fishing or whether I know who their past coworkers were, whatever. I'm going to lead with that in the first couple lines so that they know right away this is for them. I end with a low friction call to action. So instead of asking for things like, hey, give me an hour of your time next Friday, which is a pretty high friction ask, I make sure to end with something like, hey, is this at all worth looking into? Would this be remotely relevant or interesting for you? Number five is always be relevant as well. So make sure that you're speaking to the typical problems, pains that the buyer you're reaching out to probably cares about in their role. To that point, always tied to pain. People are motivated by pain over reward. And so reframe your impact statements to be based on bringing out pain. So instead of saying, like, hey, could you imagine getting an extra 3 million bucks in revenue next year, I might reframe that as, hey, prospect, did you know that last year your sales team probably missed out on 3 million bucks of revenue that you left on the table? Would it be worth looking at UserGems to see how we could help scoop that back up for you this year? That pain of missing out 3 million last year is a lot more motivating than maybe gaining 3 million next year. With that, I would say FOMO is a huge motivator. So, yeah, fear of missing out. And that kind of ties to my previous point. But anywhere you can instill FOMO, like referencing players in their space who are doing really well with your company or whatever, those can be powerful drivers for them to respond. Last one is kind of a no brainer, but keep your cadences multi channel, meet your buyers where they are. So, whether that's LinkedIn, whether that's on the phones, texting, email, etc., make sure that your cadence hits them wherever they might prefer to communicate.
Great. Yeah, I really love that, especially the part about where you flip the statement on its head about instead of saying, "Hey, you can get X," or like, "Hey, you missed out on $3 million." That would hit anyone hard. I was just gonna ask, and this is a curious question from a noob to sales. Do these rules apply when you multi-thread too?
Do these rules apply to when I multi thread a mid funnel opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that the same rules apply because at the end of the day, it kind of ties back to human psychology, and people are motivated to respond to certain messages more than others. And when they have a fear of missing out, and so when you say, hey, Doze, I've been talking to X, Y, and Z at your company, and we have a meeting on Friday that's going to be really awesome because we're going over XYZ exciting points. Do you want to join for that meeting? Then it makes you feel like, hey, maybe I'm missing out on something and I should be on that Friday meeting. So
All right. This was pretty helpful. Thanks for joining me on this, Derek. It was always good to chat with you about sales and all that.
thanks for hosting. Yeah. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, my man.
All right. Bye.